Hello everyone, I have Jen McCarty, the Cosmic Gypsy with me. I have Laura Eisenhower with me, and the three of us are going to just go with the flow, organically talk, chat, but we are going to focus somewhat on the energies right now. So we're looking at the solstice, we're looking at the eclipse, the Ring of Fire eclipse. We're looking at these days around this time, so the 20th, 21st, 22nd of June 2020, this sort of Stargate portal dates. But as I said, it's organic conversation, so anything to do with that energy and what comes from that as we speak together. So welcome Laura, welcome Jen. Thank you for...
Hi Magenta, so honoured to be with you, so honoured to be with you both. Love you both so much.
Thank you, great connection, it's lovely. So how are you both, and is there anything either of you would like to specifically talk about right now?
Laura, would you like to start?
It doesn't matter to me, but sure, I'll start then. Okay. Oh man, it's just such a weird thing to try and answer, because it's such a, there's so many different energies going on. It's like a ton of different like movies and books all at once with their scripts and potential like outcomes. It's like reading a bunch of things all at once. It's, you know, 1 minute there's something encouraging, next minute it's just like getting worse in this area, you know, with, like especially in the United States with some of the rules being put in place with the masks, and that's really disturbing. It's just really painful to, you know, watch one of the first cases of a child being separated from their family because of this COVID thing. And just knowing that the dark cabal, I mean, obviously has no interest in prevention or curing. I mean, this is all about control. This is all about, you know, these darker agendas. And, you know, then we have these false flag events, but then there's real events that are mixed in with it. So then when you try and talk about it, it seems like it's bypassing somebody's real story. But if you talk about maybe somebody's real experience, then all of a sudden you're getting sucked into a movement. And it's just like, just seeing where everybody's energy is being pulled. I'm just trying to like remain centered. I mean, there's so many times where I just get a download and I just want to put it out on video, and then almost like a wave of, I wouldn't say exhaustion, but there's so much criticism that it's like, I want to wait till I'm in the right headspace to make sure I'm articulate, to make sure it's coming in good. But the urgency is so strong as well. And, you know, so we're kind of all experiencing a little bit of that, and just the need for people to understand, like, you know, this isn't celebrity. This isn't about glamour. This isn't about showing up perfect. This isn't about doing it, you know, perfectly, but the love, the passion, and the information is there. So I'm just waiting for good timing to bring in some really, really important stuff. And as this eclipse draws closer, I mean, we'll go into more detail about it, but that's kind of just where I'm at, is just trying to stay grounded. And yeah, I mean, everybody's having almost like a different time. So appreciating the diversity, appreciating the differences, and then finding the right way to explain, you know, what's going on without it, you know, offending anybody. So I just know that personal emotional sovereignty is very important. We have to be responsible for our triggers. We have to allow this to initiate us to the next level, and not get bound to this personality matrix that literally is getting more and more polarized all the time, because that breakthrough is lacking. To just get into the zone of, okay, I can witness a trigger and breathe through it, and actually communicate, you know, in a harmonious way, and actually have a meaningful discussion that actually can lead to mutual breakthroughs. So
yeah, I completely agree with everything you said, especially with that feeling of urgency. This is important. I need to get this information out as soon as possible. I've been finding that I'm putting things up on my Facebook status before I've even had chance to turn it into a video and get it out on YouTube, because I know the information is so important, and it is difficult when there's more attacks than normal. So there's more chance for triggering than normal, because we're already in an attacked state from the you know, the cabal situation on a global level. Then that's coming in individually for all of us as well. So there is a part of you that's thinking, well, I'll retreat from putting messages out for a while, but the other part of you is saying, no, you need to get those messages out now, which is something very new, I think, to all of us, because in the past, if I've had any feeling of attack anywhere or any sort of unaligned feeling, I would take some time off until I got back into alignment before I presented myself in an interview or attempted to connect with the 9 or whatever. But we can't do that now because there's not enough time to take time off and sit in the garden and sort of think, I'm going to have 3 days wandering around the forest, or I'm going to see my friends for a picnic. I've taken 1 full day off fully, where I haven't, and when I say day off, I mean no channeling, no research, no writing, no nothing. Only 1 day in the whole of the since the virus began, and I've got my 3D friends saying, "What's wrong with you? You need to take time off." But you girls would understand because you're not really working. It's not really like that. It's being called to the mission. And it's a very different way of explaining what you're doing. And it's difficult to explain that to someone in 3D because they don't really understand what you're talking about. So you have to use the word work. But really, that mission, we would be able to move in and out with these rhythms, going with the presentation when we're in that sort of higher connection and in 5D, taking time out when we might need to. And as you say, Laura, that's not possible right now because it's crucial that we get the information out immediately, even if there are going to be attacks. And those sort of attacks and backlash is coming in from individuals that are dealing with their own triggers, because obviously they're also under the global attack of the cabal. But you also have individuals that go around social media deliberately wanting to put you down and pull you off your space. What's happening to me is I'm finding that I'm in that aware state all the time. Even when I try to sort of move out of that aware state, it doesn't go. It's still there all the time. It's 24/7. And at night, what's happening to me is whenever I've been writing a book, this has happened. I'll wake up, but often it'll be like a monad. I'll have an entire infinite structure in front of me that can go into one chapter of a book or can be the entire book. But what's happening now, and this is happening throughout the night, I'm waking up, and as soon as I sort of, you've been in a deep sleep and I come to and I open my eyes, the 9 are there and they'll say something really profound and show me all of this information, and I'm saying, oh wow, yes, I agree, and then I'm going back to sleep, and then it's happening several times throughout the night, and I wake up and I'm like, I don't remember what was all that, and that was so profound and interesting and important. So I've now got a pen and paper under my bed, and I'm literally waking up several times and like grabbing it and half asleep in the dark, scribbling down what they're telling me to try to make sense of this information. So I got 3 messages last night which I have scribbled down, so I'll discuss those if you want. But Jen, what would you like to say?
I'd just like to say that since I had my spiritual awakening when I was 21 in the Himalaya mountains, I feel like my frequency went so high into the angelic realms that I was so protected. I've been so protected by any attacks and by lower frequency interference, and that has really been my experience, like throughout my whole, well, I'm 46 now, so 25 years of being in this awakened state. I've been very protected. But in the last week, and I really think it's a lot to do with the astrology and the eclipse, I have experienced a sort of like lynching from the Glastonbury community, because there are a lot of people in the Glastonbury community that do not understand about really who is part of the cabal and who isn't part of the cabal. And because I'm very vocal about my love and support of Donald Trump, it has attracted a lot of abuse. And so this abuse I wasn't privy to that previously, but in the last week it's been brought to my attention that there has been a lot of gossiping and really, really like darkness being stirred towards me. And so it's been quite interesting, because I think if you're dealing with one person, one or two people, it's quite easy to allow it to bounce off you. But when there's like a real mob that you know, of people that you've known for 20 years that are all colluding against you and speaking very, very disrespectfully and quite like liably, do you know what I mean, about me, then that has had an effect. And so today I woke up with this someone contacting me about a lot of people really, really feeling a lot of, basically, I'd use the word hatred towards me. And I think it's because I've built up such a platform in such a short period of time, and I have a voice within social media, and that just, a lot of these people aren't on their mission. A lot of these people are on the dissension path, the service to others path. So they're like drinking, smoking, going to parties, taking drugs, sexual deviancy, the works. And these people are judging me because I think because I'm so clearly on my mission. And like you said, Magenta, it is 24/7, and I don't even know what a day off looks like. I don't know how to have a day off, because I am constantly serving Mother, Father, God, and I'm constantly serving all of my brothers and sisters, because I know that when I had my spiritual awakening, the very, very second my third eye blasted open and I was in the presence of God in all its what's the word? Unfathomable form, I realized that sorry sisters, I lost my flow then.
That's okay.
But so I'm going to take this off. I've got so much to say, and I just feel, yeah, it's just been really, really upsetting for me. Everything that's happened today has it's just shown me, it's really, really shown me how effective I am actually as a teacher, and the fact that they wouldn't be going after me if I wasn't making a massive sort of like ripple within the collective. So I feel like what's happened is I've been really, really massively attacked, and instead of allowing that to bring me down, I'm just going to turn it up. Like it's actually going to make me stronger, and I'm going to be more outspoken and more on my mission. I think I was going to say something about the fact that these people, like, they're not on their mission, and I really, really am on my mission. And I think people like us, like, we trigger people that aren't on their mission. And also I'm really seeing there's this split, and I always was like, Dolores Cannon, many teachers were talking about the split, and I couldn't quite get my head around it. Being in 5D consciousness, I was like, how can there be a split in unity consciousness? I don't get how that's ever going to happen. But what I'm really, really seeing now is it is the split, and it's becoming more and more apparent of those that are on the dissension path, the service to self path, and those that are on the service to others path. And so I don't know what that's going to look like, and it'd be great for us to spend a little bit of time talking about what is that going to look like whilst we still inhabit the same planet. Do you know what I mean? So even though it's heartbreaking, I really, really am witnessing this split now.
Can I ask just if anyone else is listening who's been through something similar, and they're having just a really off day where people have been nasty to them online, or they've said something about Trump and been attacked, or what have you done to be able to come back to your power and your peace? Because you say that you're not going to allow this to get you down. It's going to make you even more focused and more on your path. So how have you done that, Jen? I think that would be helpful.
Yeah. Well, I've definitely had my rescue remedy. I needed my rescue remedy, and I've had a bit of arnica for shock, because that's all it was. It was just shock. Like, they can't hook into me because I'm so confident in who I am, that they can't actually sort of like hook into me and cause me to think, oh, no, maybe I am like that. Or that's just not possible. But it just created shock. And so I went for the rescue remedy to help me with the shock. And I also, the first person I reached out to was you, Magenta, was because I just reached out to my most awake, enlightened sisters who I knew could hold space for me and could be that voice of clarity in that moment. So I think I've definitely reached out for my sisters today, and they've just been like, you know, reaffirming how lovable I am, and how, you know, how much I'm on my mission, and how vast majority of people, and it's true, like the love letters I get bombarded. I'm sure we all do. We all get like so many love letters every single day from people sharing that we have like massively affected their evolution. And so just to be reminded of that. But I think, you know, do something for someone else. Like, I think if you find yourself getting really, really triggered, just try to pull yourself out of that story or that vibratory narrative and think, what can I do for someone else? And maybe I can smile, maybe I could just whatever, or buy a bunch of flowers, or just be in that sort of generative space of serving others, to go back into that space of serving others, which I think takes us out of that wounded child aspect, and it puts us back on our mission. But, you know, I had this amazing interview with you two, who I love and respect so much, and I was just thinking, I'm going to be with my sisters today, and so I'm the lucky one, I'm the blessed one to be in your presence.
Oh, that's lovely. You mentioned the astrology of the situation, and we were talking about that before we pressed record. So, Laura, I guess you're the expert when it comes to the three of us. When it comes to astrology, you've got far more insight into astrology than we have. So, what is the astrology of this time? I mean, what is so special about the solstice, the eclipse being the very next day? The 9 have spoken to me about the 20th, the 21st and the 22nd being a 3-day sort of portal. And I've had several people ask, these 3 days, because it's 3 days that's so significant around this sort of solstice eclipse period, I've had people ask me, is this the 3 days of darkness, or is it related to the 3 days of darkness? We're talking about this wonderful high energy moment, and yet at the same time, we're talking about, you know, attacks coming in and having to deal with them and everything that Jen has had to deal with. So what do you think's going on here astrologically and energetically, Laura?
Well, there's a lot of amped up energy. Before we started the recording, we were talking about the Mars. It's making a semi-square to Uranus. We've got Eris, E-R-I-S, the goddess of strife and conflict. It's been making a difficult aspect with Pluto. And anytime there's a challenging aspect with Pluto, it's unresolved power issues. I mean, Pluto connects us with the regenerative power of nature, connects us with alchemy, connects us with transformation. We've had conjunctions with Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter early in the year with the eclipses of December, January, and then moving into a conjunction with the Pluto-Jupiter part, which was very close to the South Node, which represents our need to let go of the old paradigm. So to let go of the old paradigm is to transform and move into higher earth energies. But because of the mind control and social engineering, it's like a huge portion of humanity is like stuck in the birth canal. And in that panic of not really being able to emerge, all these different things are yanking at the consciousness of a person, or the mental body of a person, in order to, you know, I mean, that's part of the harvesting and the siphoning, is to almost like completely hijack an organic initiation. So anytime, you know, adversity strikes, it's an opportunity for us to go through an initiation. If we can not think in such a polarized way and be in war mentality. So we're being challenged to face sort of like war and conflict and begin to emerge out of the polarized conflict and integrate polarity, but that requires a lot of inner work. So this particular eclipse coming up is amplifying, well, first of all, the solstice energy is going to set the themes or help us to see what the themes are for the next couple months. Eclipse energies last about 6 months. So we're launching in a new cycle of like a growth period in humanity. The nodes, the North and South node, moved from the Capricorn Cancer to Sagittarius Gemini. So the Capricorn Cancer had a lot to do with the Saturn Moon matrix, patriarchal programs, the false king of tyranny archetype, and how that has been holding dominion as far as how we operate in the 3D in response to the matrix, and what we're still seeing in the way that it's trying to exert its power and influence and control. And then the Cancer part, which was the North Node, was integrating the feminine, but like raising to a higher octave of lunar energy, and instead of the artificial moon component that, you know, is creating sort of like artificial waves of energies that like go into our traumas and our triggers. And this happens with men because they hold the feminine as well, just as much as women can be very patriarchal and I mean, the thing is we're deprogramming as a humanity, but because this Pluto energy is wanting us to transform, the deprogramming, it's like everybody's at a different stage of being able to let go of that old paradigm. If we can't let go of something that doesn't serve us, if anything's going to make us sick, it's that. Also giving our power away or just going with, you know, what is enforced on us. But, you know, a lot of people don't want to follow these rules, but they really don't have a choice if at this moment in time. So the next growth period and what this eclipse represents, because of the fact that it's happening in the sign of Gemini, and that's where the North Node is that our growth period has to do with throat chakra. If we look at 5D, it has a lot to do with the throat because that's our 5th chakra. If we notice that, you know, if we can't let go of the old paradigm or the programmings, that we spread viruses through our throat chakra. And that's why we see so much triggering and conflict happening amongst people, is because, you know, if they can do the divide and conquer and do it successfully, we are enabling these dark agendas and infecting each other by not creating harmony and peace. So the growth period is that we're drawing upon the wisdom of Sagittarius South Node, which connects us more to the past and things that are familiar that represent a more expanded and higher mind. So we can correct ourselves a lot easier with the South Node being in Sagittarius. And so the big growth period for the next 6 months and you know, peaking in, you know, the next 3 months has to do with sending out frequencies and codes through our throat chakra that are actually going to help like create healing, create transformation, create, you know, an alchemical shift so that we can reclaim that 5th chakra and begin to move up in the levels, lift the veil off our, you know, 6th chakra, begin to remove any implants or interferences in our crown chakra to begin to activate the galactic, to begin to upgrade our DNA and, you know, recognize the hierogamic union component and how that goes up to the avatar consciousness. So, but if we don't get the voice part down, if we don't get our communication thing down, it's just like a relationship. You know, you can be totally in love, but if your communication's lacking, it can make or break everything. So we're learning as a humanity to work on how we communicate with one another with differing opinions, different experiences, different levels of where we are on our journey, and learning integrity and respect and being authentic in your truth is number one. And so people have to be very careful of allowing a social movement and the aspects of it that are infiltrated to be a virus that spreads. It doesn't mean that those things aren't important to stand up for, but we have to like really look at the difference between a distortion, a mind control tactic, a psychological operation, and our true authentic experience of what's going on the planet right now. Because the same issues can be dealt with, but if we're doing it in an authentic, connected space, we're not going to feel so threatened and people aren't going to feel so combative. And it's going to be a lot like more about, wow, you know, love is number one. Unity is number one. Being true to ourselves as the prerequisite to unity consciousness, being authentic and true to ourselves, being able to discuss this stuff with spiritual maturity is number one. Then we begin to deprogram from these conquered and divide agendas that are utilizing our passions, our wounds, our triggers, our traumas, to make this growth period absolutely a stunted growth so that we get more assimilated into AI. It needs us to be low in vibration in order to assimilate us, and that's exactly what it's attempting to do, using these pawns and using these people that are hybrid members of the Illuminati, and how that connects to these darker agendas from these demonic forces and archonic beings.
So raising polarity and utilizing the throat chakra specifically through communication in order to assist in the raising of that polarity. So the 9 also say that one of the most important messages, and probably the most important message they came through with, was, and this would relate, I think, Jen, to information you've picked up as well, and what you're actually organizing over the next 3 days. The 9 are talking about this particular portal, 20th, 21st and 22nd of June, being like this Stargate, related to everything you've said, Laura, as a moment for global initiation, the great awakening, if you will, and the coming into the throat chakra, the taking of the power and the speaking the power and all of those things. And because this is a global initiation and in many ways the beginning of the new earth reality, the coming together of the starseeds in this higher consciousness, that this very important pivotal time has been or is attempting to be hijacked by drawing in the darker energies. And one of the things that the that the cabal are doing are organizing these Luciferian marches for a one world government right on these 3 days. But what is also occurring is Donald Trump is calling for one of his first rallies since lockdown. So we've got a lot going on in these next 3 days. Related to that, somebody actually asked me, do you think that the Luciferian marches have been deliberately arranged for this time because of Donald Trump's rally? Now, personally, I think it's because of the solstice and the eclipse. And Donald Trump, is he aware that he's hosting his rally on the same day as the eclipse and the solstice? I would say that that's divinely orchestrated personally. So I'd like you, Jen, to discuss this, because I know you've picked up the same information, and you, Laura, yeah?
Oh, wait, I just wanted to insert, the sun is in Cancer though, and new moon's in Cancer, but it's conjunct the North Node in Gemini. So we're dealing with the combination of the Cancer energies, the mother energies, and communicating, you know, from the divine feminine within, and masculine, of course. So I just wanted to correct that, because I mentioned Gemini, but it's the sun is in Cancer and the new moon's in Cancer, but the nodal impact in the growth period has to do with Gemini. Sorry, go ahead, Jen.
Wow. Okay, thank you. Well, I just thought these 3 messages came through last night. One of them, and the 9 said this very, very clearly to me. And I remember opening my eyes, and they're speaking it, and they'll say it over and over again, and until I actually say yes, yes, and I sometimes repeat what they're saying, and then I jump out of bed and write it down. This relates to what you're saying, Laura. The 9 said, people are being called to present their shadow side, to draw up the shadow side, but they used the word present. So it's almost as though this beautiful initiation period of higher vibration, the beginning of the new earth, on the one hand, it is an initiation of light and the raising of the bliss and the heart and the unity and the coming together. People are being called to present their shadow side, as if maybe they didn't know that their shadow side was there. So all of these shadow elements are coming up with everyone. And of course, that's going to affect the communication, the way people communicate, because the shadow side's coming up and some people are aware of it and some people aren't. And also that may also explain attacks that the light workers and starseeds are getting, because the shadow side is coming up and presenting itself. Do you both feel that this is happening?
Yes, 100%. And so I experienced the most unprecedented attack of my life today by many, many, many people. And you know, I am still kind of like coming back round from it. And I was a little bit wobbled, and I rarely get wobbled. And I was a bit wobbled. And so I went to my friend's house. Like, as I was saying, I reached out to my most awake sisters, and she shared with me about the astrology. She's been listening a lot to the Leo King. And so she was quite up to sort of spec with what was going on astrologically. And she explained to me about this Uranus and Mars conjunction or alignment somehow. Was it a square that I think you said, Laura? Yeah, square. And how and also how this was related to the eclipse energy, and the fact that I've been running the transmissions now for 3 years, and I've been building up like a massive community of between 300 and 500 people, and I feel that I've been building this community for this work. I feel that this is the absolute crux of why Spirit got me to start doing these transmissions. And so I got this perspective that, because you know, I'm sort of like facilitating this global transmission and sort of going head on against this Luciferian agenda, it was very clear to me that that was what was triggering this response in these people of a lower frequency in my community. And that it was almost like, and I had a little bit of an insight, and I don't normally think like this, but I think we're in the middle of the flipping spiritual war right now, and things are a bit different. And so I had to just look at it from a different perspective and come out of like unity consciousness for 1 minute to actually go down into that level, that kind of like that war battleground. And then I suddenly, like, together we realized that this is why this attack has happened now, because I'm sort of like going head on with this Luciferian agenda. And so possibly they are trying to use their little minions to cause a little bit of a wobble in my field. And then as soon as I got that, I was like, yes. And then I was set free. And any sort of like personal, any residues of it being a personal thing, because they all know me, it was just completely eradicated, because I was able to look at it from that context of this spiritual battle that we're in, and the role that I have chosen to take on, or the role that I have taken on is very, very much anti-Luciferian. And so as we're coming to this crux of this battle, then I understand why I have been the sort of receiver of a little bit of attack. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does make sense.
Yeah.
You know, with what I was saying about this this beautiful initiation being hijacked at this time, and you know, we have a Trump rally which is going to be a very high vibrational, open-hearted, energetic, with the patriots standing for truth and justice and wisdom, supporting Trump in everything he is doing, the starseeds, the lightworkers doing the meditations and the global work, understanding, as we have done every year for multiple lifetimes, working with the solstice energies. The solstice energies have been pivotal to anyone who's aware and awake. You open that Stargate at that time. Laura, what do you think of these Luciferian marches for a one world government, the fact that it's happening around the solstice eclipse time with the astrology and Trump's rally, and you know, the fact that the Nine said to me, people are being called to present their shadow side, being called to, as in it's time, as if you can't keep your shadow hidden any longer, it's time to bring it out. So we've got a multi-layered conglomeration of different energies occurring right now.
Yeah. And okay, so because the polarity of the Cancer Capricorn has been so strong with the original, with the eclipses that kind of like started off this whole wave of like pandemic, you know, here we are in this big paradigm shift, and all of a sudden we're facing something that is sort of stopping us in our tracks. But it's a necessary thing in some ways, but it doesn't make much of it okay. But in these times of adversity, this is the opportunity for deprogramming. And so all these different levels of how people are responding are coming out, and people get to make a choice. And the choice needs to be, first off, you know, claiming your own personal sovereignty, knowing who you are, doing the inner work, and facing the shadow connected to the programmings and the social conditioning. And not all programmings are the same, because if they were the same, we already would be in that, you know, one world order. It seeks to create division. So a lot of times the programming is making sure that it pits us against each other. And these are old tactics, and there's a lot of different types of dark technologies and different ways, you know, different, you know, timings for them to pull out a specific trigger event, depending on maybe what the growth period for humanity is, because they do have a strong understanding of the occult. So basically, we have to deprogram as a human race, and we have to understand that, okay, if the sun's in Cancer, if this eclipse is in the sign of Cancer, and there's that Saturn moon matrix, and we're looking to move on from the old paradigm and shift out of the dark Saturn, which does represent the Luciferian one world order agendas, but that's just how they use that planet. The higher octaves of that planet are actually self-mastery and becoming a teacher. So the trials and tribulations of facing these dark ways of expressing planetary energies through the dark polarity and negative polarity is to hook into the negative polarity in us. So if we can raise our vibration with those energies that you know relate to, you know, Saturn and Moon, and seek self-mastery, clear our emotional bodies from distortions, find that internal balance within ourselves and that divine blueprint, and really just begin to like say, I'm going to let this initiation happen for me personally, even if the world's not showing up in that way. And that frequency, you know, is an override frequency that can actually connect to the minds that are being sucked into the mind control, because it connects into the collective consciousness. So yeah, these marches, I mean, and we were talking about bifurcation. This is really when people are making choices. It's a throat chakra kind of thing. Thoughts, choices, the words we speak, the things that we support, how we relate to false news, negative technologies of mind control that are seeking to assimilate us more and more all the time, as we have this other opening that's helping us to go through a growth period that's advancing us and helping us to override the things like the Saturn moon matrix, you know, we can get to the higher octaves of how the masculine and feminine relate. And it's not even about gender, it's about energy circulation, it's about the earth grids, it's about the electromagnetic nature of our DNA and the things that need to be restored and healed. But the net that we've been encased in for so long, and what comes through our electronics is constantly, you know, wanting to enslave us more and more and more and more. So we got to rip a hole through that net and burn through, you know, that distortion field. And if we can all agree on doing that and hold space for each other and work on ourselves, you know, whatever it is that they're trying to do to get to the next level of programming begins to get dissolved. So, and then the food source is cut off from them, and those tentacles are not hooked into whatever in our bodies. The AI part of it's going to connect with an implant that can actually, you know, become like almost overtake the body. So, and then the emotional intelligence starts to increase in the AI as we become more and more dumbed down and we lose our soul matrix. It ends up being filtered into this AI that ends up having an intelligence that's based on mimicking and imitating. And then we're facing the lost aspects of ourselves that are then shutting us down, controlling us, and keeping us. So we have to say, this organic initiation is here. That can't be destroyed, but we can get so distracted away from it that we absolutely miss the ability, you know, to upgrade. So as we see those things, we have to look at them as catalysts. All of us know what it's like to, you know, move through adversity. I mean, doctors might tell somebody they might not ever walk again, and that person figures out how to walk. We have greater abilities than we can realize. So no matter what's breathing down our neck or trying to shut us down, it's not going into the fear. It's that refusal. Just like you said, Jen, you know, when adversity strikes, you come back that much stronger, and you're going to amp it up. And I'm the same way when something tries to stop me. It might shock me, but my next response is, I'm going to even have more come out, like the best of me come out even more. It reinforces my truth, because if anybody tries to steal my truth, it reinforces it and makes me that much stronger and more, you know, in the warrior light of it all. So humanity has to see that these adversities are going to either allow a breakthrough and allow us to go through the initiations that are necessary, or it's absolutely going to take our lower mind and weave it more and more into the AI, and we're going to miss the opportunity to actually reclaim our capacity to alchemize and transmute pretty much everything. The lead of, you know, the heavy metals that we've been inhaling, the things that are trying to, you know, we have to stay aligned and devoted to our soul matrix, because that's what they're trying to steal from us. And that's because of fear. So the more we give our power away, the more separate we are from our own internal guidance, our own downloads, our own instructions that will help us to know what to do in these times. It's built into us. So this is our choice right now. Are you going to claim your own truth? Are you going to stand for, you know, what you're made of? Are you going to be an advocate for yourself and your DNA and the treasure that you are? Or are you going to let this stuff play you? And the thing is, it's all parasitic and it's all vampiric. It doesn't care about us. You know, this all is for your own good, or this is, you know, for some they are looking out. It's not all evil, but yeah, I mean, this is such a critical time. So I could go on. I don't want to overly talk.
I do feel that this time is incredibly important and so pivotal and so very powerful. I mean, I always feel like this at the solstice and at the equinox times and eclipse times. But this is incredibly powerful, but it's also very, very different, because we do have this shadow aspect that's so much stronger and so much more obvious than it was before. And with everything you're saying, Laura, might it be that from the dark cabal perspective, might it be that one of the potential intentions they might have is to, around the solstice eclipse time and obviously coinciding with Trump's rally, might it be that they would want to present some kind of flag of the false kind as well as these marches? And from one point of view, would that be a potential catalyst to awakening the rest of humanity, and from that point of view needed, if you will? But you mentioned two words, one phrase that jumped out at me very strongly, and that's override frequency. You said override frequency. You said it very quickly, but it was so powerful when you said that. So might it be that the starseeds are able to override the frequency and prevent the dark catalyst of the flag of the false kind? Am I right in saying that that's what you feel could occur? I'd like you to respond to that, Laura. And then Jen, you are organizing something that is actually an antidote. I know there are many starseeds doing this. I've seen this all over social media, and obviously I'm doing my own thing with video uploads. I've got a video an incantation spell antidote being uploaded right now. But so Laura, if you could respond to that, and then Jen, talk about what it is you're doing on the 21st.
Okay. Oh yeah, and I'm doing a roundtable. Simon Parks should be on that too, and I'll be announcing more if all that's confirmed. So the override frequency is definitely, you know, what the starseeds have come in with. There's a lot of starseeds. Obviously, starseeds are targeted, starting from, you know, their time in the school systems. You know, being told they have ADD, or you know, they can't sit still. It's like, well, yeah, no wonder. So there's a lot of activation of starseeds, a lot of people that are being activated to step into their greater calling and mission. And that's going to be a widespread thing that's going to continue to happen. Because the thing is, we're all connected to starseed lines. We have advanced DNA that is dormant. So when somebody's able to reach a certain level, when somebody's ready to be switched on, they're going to be switched on. And when they get switched on, they can switch on 10 people, 100 people, 1,000 people. So that ripple effect is what's going on. The grid work that has been happening for thousands of years on the planet have corrected most of the dark grids and reversals. There's only a few that are remaining, and they're hanging on to those to do these marches and to generate these artificial timelines, but it's a lot weaker than what they were planning, because so many rescue missions came in, not to save the day, but to be activators, to help switch on the override frequency in everybody, because we all have the capacity to, you know, hold this. But the amnesia, the indoctrination, the social engineering, and the conditioning, ancestral patterns, blah, blah, blah. So that shadow stuff is all that. We've had Venus retrograde, now we have Mercury retrograde. So everything is taking us inward to begin to look at, okay, when we have triggers, when we have physical symptoms, when we notice something out of balance in our lives, what is the shadow work we have to do behind that? What have we bought into? What is harvesting our energies? What are we still holding on to that has fallen into the unconscious realms? When we shine a light on unconsciousness, we recognize it's multidimensional spiritual energy, because anything that's unconscious is basically what we need to just open up to. And so it involves moving through some of those thick layers of astral parasites, entities, the veil. You know, it's like there's a lot of dark clouds in that shadow work. But every time we do that, you know, we're that much lighter. We're that much more like, oh yeah, okay, now I'm starting to make sense. Now I'm starting to feel like myself again, you know. But if we don't hold hands and move through these dark clouds, you know, we all have our own individual shadow stuff, but the collective shadow stuff is thousands and thousands of years of dark and very painful traumatic history, and history books that are encouraging us to blame ourselves as humans instead of looking at the dark cabal that has been pulling the strings and funding both sides of war. And that's why they're confused about Trump, because they think he's just funded Republican puppet. They don't understand there's a whole nother thing coming in here. So that's going to be very helpful for the override frequency as well. I've looked at his chart, and I can't wait to do a specific thing on it. I have no reason to just, you know, gravitate towards a president. I've never really voted. I don't care if I'm related to a president. I am not a political governmental type thinker or person. There's something different going on here. Take it or leave it, folks. This is a critical time. It's not about all of a sudden having to like him or support him, but certainly do not attack people that intuitively feel connected, because you don't know them well enough to even know why they're making that decision to support somebody like him. You got to dig a little bit deeper. The thing is, mutual respect and integrity is everything. And I don't want to overly, you know, go off, but I hope, you know, that answered. So the override frequency is something we need to focus on. So this weekend, you know, in meditation, in doing your own inner work, just stand in alignment, use your throat chakra to invoke things. And yeah, you guys were going to talk about what you're doing this weekend as far as, yeah, bringing that energy in to create that effect. And the thing is, this shift time shows that that has dominion on the planet. The timeline shifted in 2010. The sun started to move through the 13th sign. The availability of the ether to purify all of us is lit up in ways that it hasn't been for thousands and thousands of years, because we got back into alignment with the galactic core. And so a lot of powerful starseeds that weren't able to incarnate before have come in too. So anyway.
And I think just before we move to Jen, many of us, especially us three, and we know others like us, we have been drawn to discuss the dark plan since the virus and lockdown hit, more so than perhaps we would normally discuss it. So we're seen as light workers. People have said to me, I come to your channel to be uplifted, to come away feeling good. And lately, whilst your information is interesting, I have come away not feeling so uplifted. And what I would say is it's not about being uplifted. Yes, that's so important, and Jen can explain that when she talks about what she's doing. Of course it's about being uplifted. That's what raises the bliss and activates the DNA and moves us into the higher strand configuration, so that we can take that override frequency that you're talking about. But because there is an uprising occurring on the shadow side, individually and collectively, and the cabal are part of that, and they're going against humanity and against Trump, and there is this war battle polarity playing out as we sort of cleanse those last aspects of that polarity. This is why we've been drawn to discuss the shadow side and the dark side more, the three of us, very much so. So it might appear that our information has changed, but it's always been like this. I mean, the nine have been talking to me about the shadow side and the dark cabal since I started putting messages out. But this moment is pivotal, because what I'm seeing is the sort of last stand of that showdown. It's like now is when they're coming in to last chance to get on that New World Order timeline, that Armageddon timeline, last chance to hijack this. And yet what I'm seeing is an override frequency, which is what you said, Laura. I'm seeing the raising of energy in such a powerful, heart-opening, unified way. Somebody asked me, could the artificial intelligence constructs hijack all the beautiful, love light, higher, powerful energies that we're creating? I have discussed this previously. Last time we did a meditation. I mean, you can both respond to that, but what I would say is, when your intention is pure and you come together as a collective, if you don't know what you're doing and you think, oh, I'm going to send love and light to the higher energies and I'm going to send white light everywhere because I feel that I should, then yes, that can be hijacked because you're a newbie and you're not aware of what you're doing. But when that collective energetic contains individuals who are focused, hold intention, who are trained, then they take hold of that frequency and they carry the entire frequency forward. That's what it means to be a leader in this movement. It doesn't mean get on YouTube and start making videos. It's taking the frequency and leading the frequency forward, not in any ego-based sense, but in service. That's what the three of us and others like us right across the globe, all those powerful light workers and star seeds, holding the ability to have that intention in a focused sense, because they have already moved into that configuration with their DNA. So their DNA is able to radiate, connect telepathically with all the newly awakened individuals and take that energy forward. So that is what I'm seeing, and it is a polarity and it is a final showdown. And as the nine said, you have already won, if you will, but we are being called to draw down that pre-matter template, the pre-matter template of winning this situation. And we don't see it as a battle, and we don't see it as winning if we want to win, if you will. We have to draw that down and ground it. So Jen, what are you calling for on the 21st?
Okay, so I initially I organised the solstice transmission to be on the 20th because that is the actual time of the solstice. But then I found out about this march, this whole Luciferian march, and I got a very, very clear message from my team that we had to neutralise the energy of the march through working with the, we're going to be working with the rose. And so I was shown a vision of going to the march, of us all going to the march and actually I was shown that there's going to be a brand new wave of sleepers that are about to awaken in this solstice gateway. And the energetics that we're going to be working with in the transmission was going to be very, very triggering for that next wave of sleepers. So I spontaneously received a vision of sending our whoever's part of the transmission actually into that Luciferian march and finding one person. We're going to be finding one person, maybe it's a member of Antifa, it's just someone that is asleep on this globalist agenda, and we're going to be giving them a rose. And it's actually a soul contract that we have made prior to incarnation that we're going to be doing this work. And so we're going to be working with all of those people that are gathered for these nefarious intentions. And so I also, the visions that I was receiving were very much in alignment with God's will. And so we know that when we're working on these higher timelines with the will of the Creator, we know that this always trumps any lower frequency intentions or plans. And so it's so powerful. And so we're going to be working with the symbol of the rose, in order to neutralize that energy that they are going to be attempting to pour into the collective on that day. We're going to be neutralizing it, and with the intention of actually assisting in the next wave of sleepers through working with the symbology of the rose. We're also going to be opening up, I was shown that we're going to be working with a lot with the Pleiadians, and we're going to be opening up some Pleiadian portals to assist in the removal of, there are a lot of like governors and mayors that are real deep state, that they're working for the cabal, and Spirit showed me that we have to open up a portal so that these energies can now, it's time for them to go out of the planet. And I was shown, the Galactic showed me that we actually need support. And it's like you said, Magenta, it's like that timeline has already anchored, that fifth dimensional New Earth timeline has already anchored. And it feels like now we are just like showing up for duty in the work that we signed up to do in order to assist in the manifestation of that timeline. So somehow this is all connected. And because I've been doing the transmissions for like 3 years now, we've built up a very, very strong ground crew. And so like the last transmission, we worked on the whole sort of like police thing, shifting the relationship with the police. And then lo and behold, like, you know, everything hit the fan with the whole police. So we know that we've got a direct link with the, you know, with the highest plan now, and with all of the angels that are working with us all to implement this 5D timeline. So the transmission, so I changed the time of the transmission to be on the 21st. It's going to be at the same time when these when these marches are taking place. And yeah, and I think that the Trump rally is a massive part of the anchoring of those New Earth codes as well, because I've actually seen what it's like inside a Trump rally, and it is so high vibe. It is absolutely unbelievable. And so he's going to be gathering so many beautiful patriots that love their country and that are very, very honoring and honorable people, bringing them all together and just raising everyone's vibration. And I really think that that's going to have a massive effect in terms of neutralizing this nefarious agenda. So that's what it's all about now. And yeah, and I'm aiming for 500 people. It's been absolutely, like, so many starseeds have heard the call, and we're going to break all records with this. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say. And neutralize my, yeah, basically can't ascend. And I just, another thing I wanted to say about, you know, a lot of people said that to me about, why are you talking about all the shadow? Like, why are you talking about the children? Why are you talking about all the paedophiles at the moment? And it's like, we cannot ascend. There's no way we're going to ascend unless we go into the deepest, darkest aspects of our society, our society shadow, and bring them back to the light. And so, you know, I've lost some people because of that, because they're like, I only tuned into you because you were so like high vibe, and like, you know, I'm just not feeling it. But however many people I lost, I gained so many more that were like, thank you for your authenticity. Thank you for your bravery. Thank you for your relentless service to humanity, that you are exposing a light on this darkness. And it also reminds me of my group. When I set up my group, the event is happening, and I found out that there were people in the group that were homeless. And I was like, what kind of leader am I if I'm just going to allow there to be, with this massive platform, if I'm just going to, like, you know, brush it under the carpet that there's homeless people in the group? And so I set up a charity called Helping One Person at a Time, where we pick one person at a time who was in a really, really vulnerable homeless situation. And then we raised like up to between £2,500 and £5,000 in order to lift them out of homelessness and to restore their dignity, for them to live in a home. And it's like, we can't ascend. How can this group be an ascension group unless we go to the most vulnerable people that are suffering and actually make this ascension in action? And so this is all about ascension in action, and it's messy, it's upsetting. It's upsetting to hear about people's situations, but I'm an authentic person. Like, we're so authentic. We're not going to just be fluffy and love and light. Like, that's not what this is about. Like, we are galactic warriors of the highest order, and I know that you two really, really are, and I'm so honored to be in your presence, because I respect you so deeply as galactic warriors. And you know, we've showed up, we've incarnated for this time. This is it. This is where the rubber meets the road. And this is, and I, you know, I keep saying this, I feel like I've become General Jen, and I've like got my sort of like I'm General Jen now, and I'm in stealth mode, and there's no days off. It's like 24/7, as Magenta said, and it will be, and I will continue to do that. But the thing is, when you're on your mission, I don't even want to have a day off. Like, it's not even an option, because I'm so in alignment with my destiny, with my higher self destiny, that like, I just, like, what would I do on a day off? I mean, I'm just here to serve. Like, what am I meant to do?
Yeah, every time I try and have a day off, I just end up just getting some kind of thing come through, because when I'm calm and I'm grounded, that's when downloads come through. I'm like, okay. It's and it's always been like this. There's no break in it. It's because it's embodied. It's not just you show up to go to work. It's like it's like we're tied in a yeah. Anyway, sorry if you
I was just going to say regarding the day off, how I managed to take a day off. It was actually Daniel, my husband's birthday. And one of the things we decided was, shall we try to, you know, not watch any videos, no research, no channeling, no talking about, let's try to move into a zone just for his birthday, to make his birthday sacred. But we had to create an intention to do that. In order to take the day off, we had to intend it. So it's the opposite way. Normal people go, 3D people go to work, and you know, it's a day off, and they make an intention to go to work, and a day off is like normal time. But for us, this is as you say, it's continuous, it's all the time. So we had to intend, and together to make the intention to actually take a day off. And it was hard work to do, because it's there all the time. It was really nice, but it isn't something that I would do very often, because it isn't where I am. And also I was going to say, Jen, you make some fantastic points about the diving deep and the going into the shadow and the presenting of the darkness. And I think people who don't understand why that's happening amongst the spiritual teachers right now is something they need to understand. This is the indigo aspect. Now, everyone has this, but some individuals are far more crystal. So they're here to hold the energy. They are here to heal. And the dark stuff, they don't really need to analyze it as much. Obviously, they need to dig deep and move through the shadow just as much as all of us, but they can ascend without perhaps analyzing everything so much. But when you move into the indigo energy, and when you have natural indigo energy, as the three of us do, it becomes imperative to do that. That is the way you move through the ascension process, and we're not going to ascend without doing that. So that's really important. So I wanted to just say, was there anything you would like to say on that subject, Laura? You said you were also doing something over these 3 days. You're doing a round table. You know, is that sort of work that you will be doing as an antidote to this sort of dark energy? or are you just coming together to just discuss everything?
Yeah, I mean, everything is, I just seek to be an antidote to what's going on. I mean, that's just like really locked into my intention. But yeah, as far as the theme of it, I wouldn't say it's directly saying like, you know, solstice weekend. I'm not the one that's putting it together, but we are discussing really relevant things that will create more unification with I don't know, a lot about this divide, these lower level race wars and these trigger events that are bringing up old traumas and kind of like capturing people in those feedback loops that almost like dig us down even further. A lot of the things that I like to focus on is the trigger words that are designed to create disunity instead of unity, because they have a vibrational energy of almost insult or assumption or projection. And so a part of the throat chakra stuff is really, how can we upgrade our words? How can we use words that actually open the heart, that actually facilitate healing, instead of words that actually constrict or create offense or create, you know, so that's kind of like what my focus is on the weekend. And obviously to discuss, I'm going to be doing a newsletter, and it's going to be far more detailed about these, you know, particular energies. But yeah, I mean, going into those dark zones, I mean, it's so important to acknowledge. And this is what I don't really understand too, because there's been so much of this already. It's all out there. All that information is out there. There's been tons of documentaries. There is no real outrage. You don't see people, you know, flipping out to the degrees that they are about what we're seeing in the news right now. And that's not to belittle or undermine that is an appropriate reaction, is to be horrified at seeing that scene. Whether it's false flag or not, it's understandable that it would create that level of outrage. But the thing is, because people get caught in the conspiracy theory or the political part of it, or they must be being smeared, there's no way that, you know, these groups of people could be, you know, behind human trafficking rings, pedophilia. I mean, the thing is, human slavery currently it does not care about color. It'll just, it cares about the adrenochrome, it cares about the currency, it cares about, just feeding its power system, and it literally goes after anybody it can find. And that's not to say that there aren't still issues that need to be addressed with, you know, the Black community. And I don't even like using that word, because I don't feel outside of anything. Like, to me, there's no separation. I feel the oneness. But the thing is, the reason this needs attention, not to say, oh, you know, you guys are all in uproars about this and you're not paying attention to this, but it is an important point. Like, you know, these are innocent children. These are kidnapping cases. These are people in leadership positions that are the puppeteers behind infiltrated movements that are doing criminal acts that are so horrifying that, and people are looking up to them, and or if they're not looking up to them, they don't realize that they're hiding behind much of this and they're funding much of this. And the scary part is, these are the ones that are behind the worst form of slavery, trying to trigger us into going into the historical events that have taken place that have to do with, you know, human slavery, which is just very important, of course. But the fact is they're covering up current human slavery connected to human trafficking and pedophilia, and creating these movements to distract us away from looking at them as the real enemy behind why we're all not getting along. So, you know, it's not about being a victim to it. We are releasing ourselves from negative ego constructs, either from a place of powerlessness or amplification of ego and self-righteousness. And balance is required. Imbalance is what archons feed on. So it's about the terrain. So if something can plug into terrain, it's similar to a germ. It's about the terrain. Is the blood alkaline? Is what kind of like food is that person, you know, putting in the body? Because we're going to be facing germs and foreign substances all the time. But what is our terrain on a consciousness level? How's our spiritual immune system? And on a physical level? So we have to create the ideal terrain to not let these things be invaders and be an out of control infection that literally takes over our creative channels. And we are literally the batteries behind these artificial timelines. So if we could focus on the terrain of our thoughts, our consciousness, and our physical bodies, really, we're going to increase our energetic shield and nothing will be able to penetrate. The problem is we're so imbalanced and we're so fearful, you know, as a collective right now, that we're literally creating terrain that is perfect for them to be able to overtake. So in this initiation, we just have to, you know, work on that to create an inhospitable environment for Archon parasites and bioweapons and the next wave. It's like, this is what this weekend really represents to me. And what you guys are doing is so huge, and all the time what you're doing is so huge, is to optimize the frequency, which then steps down into the physical body, and the physical body responds, and then the earth responds to us. And the next thing you know, we're in a much different place. But if we don't start getting a grip on that, I mean, I just wish, and I already think it's here, but history keeps repeating itself. Just like negative patterns in a relationship are going to keep repeating itself until that wisdom breakthrough happens. And once that perception shifts, I mean, one simple shift of perception can open up a miracle vibration. And so our thoughts are so powerful, and the breakthroughs that we can have to connect with our higher mind are huge. There's a lot of Mars-Pluto energies going on this week, so that's really helping to purify the ego energies. Uranus is going to create amplification, but it's also, it connects to the higher mind, and it is, the planet of, upgrades. And the beauty is about Trump's chart is his greater destiny is holding the planet that represents sovereignty and freedom above all planets. He's got like chock full of in his chart. So sorry if that was too long, but oh my gosh, but let's just create the ideal terrain. Each of us has to make a commitment to ourselves, and then we can come together in unity consciousness in the most authentic way, in a way that ripples out to the collective. Because these movements, this is the hijacking. Not to say that people shouldn't be passionate about these things, but literally, it's creating the opposite effect. It's hijacking unity consciousness. It's hijacking our need to speak up, speak our truths, and fight for something that matters, because these are the times for it. And yeah, it's absolutely creating a storyline to hide behind so that we avoid being part of assisting and taking down the criminals. I mean, the crimes against humanity need exposure. We can't just put it on a president. We all have to step up and say, hey, we're going to be the voices of this. We're changing the governmental structure. We all have to stand up. We can't just sit back. And those that sit back and criticize, they really aren't getting off their ass and doing anything. So and if they are, it shouldn't be hard to get along with those that have their heart in the right place for the human race.
Well, thank you, Laura. What would you say, either of you, to someone who's new to this, to someone who's just woken up recently, perhaps since the beginning of virus, and is moving into the spiritual awareness and is thinking, okay, I want to lend my energy here. I want to do something. I want to move into this initiation and move into this override frequency and join with these star seeds. Now, I know that you're doing the event, Jen, that you've spoken about, and I know that there are lots and lots of starseeds out there and light workers out there that are arranging events over this weekend. And if they're listening, I would love them all to write down in the comments section what it is they're doing, with links to their event, because all of these events are one big event. So let's just have all of them out there so that we can share.
Oh, in our description, great, because I have about 3 of them. People are like, can you share this? Can you share this? I'm like, yeah, perfect. Yeah.
Same here. I've had people write to me, so we want to share as much as possible. But if you could both answer for the beginner who isn't sure, perhaps they've meditated a little bit or haven't meditated at all, and there are so many out there that are saying, stay away from all this, don't join in with the collective meditation, the AI is going to siphon your energy. I've already explained how we are focusing our intention and that won't occur, but can you sort of give some words of advice to newly awakened individuals who want to join in? What if they don't want to join a group? What do they do on their own at home? What do they do about joining a group when there's so many? How do they choose? And how can they be reassured that their energy isn't being siphoned and what they're doing is not dangerous to them?
You want to go first, Jen? You need your volume. You're muted.
I would say find a teacher that you really resonate with, and someone that has proven to you that they are consistent in their vibration. And when they speak, that your heart, and you have a somatic response, whether that's you feel emotional or you feel goosebumps, like that would be a sign from your higher self that you have made some sort of soul contract to work with that person. So really, really use discernment. If you're going to join someone's group, use discernment about whether you really, really are connecting on a spiritual level with that person. I know that all the people that I work with, I have made a soul contract prior to incarnation that we would work together. And so I very, very often have that experience with people where they get sort of overcome with emotion and they get loads and loads of goosebumps, because it's their higher self's way of saying you have met a soulmate of your destiny that is part of your evolution and expansion. So I think be very, very discerning. And if you get a funny feeling about someone, like don't go there. And if you get a 100% yes, I would say trust that. So and if you're not really, you know, drawn to, if you want to just do your own thing, then it's like everyone, we have to focus on unity consciousness. And one of the quickest ways that we focus on unity consciousness is by serving others, is by thinking about others, by doing stuff for other people, by training ourselves to be kind and be generous towards other people, and to understand that, I mean, it's difficult. How do you get to unity consciousness? I think, you know, sound frequencies, surround yourself in very, very powerful sound frequencies, like 432 hertz. There's loads of tools and meditations online that are going to assist your energy field. Like, we're all like tuning forks, and we really, really need to attune ourselves to 5D, which is unity consciousness. And there are many, many tools out there that assist us. And some of that, for some people, that will be teachers. For other people, that will be singing bowls. That will be some sort of like meditations, working with hertz and stuff like that. Another way, for me, I would say the quickest way to get to unity consciousness is by taking off the emphasis of your own story. Like we all have to understand that every time that we incarnate, we all have a story. We all have a sob story. We've all had so much trauma in our life. Like every single one of us are all victims of the cabal. Like so many of us have sexual abuse. Like we've all got a story. But in order for us to really, really come to unity consciousness, at some point within our evolutionary journey, we have to just put it down and understand that we have to transmute this, that keep on going into it and picking it apart and picking all the scabs, like that is not the way to unity consciousness. And I speak from direct experience as someone who was quite attached to my story. And it wasn't until one day I realized that, because I was waiting for Archangel Michael to pop out of the fifth dimension and say to me, Jen, you've been doing so well, love. I think you can like put your story down now. And it was just like, it was never going to happen. I had to step up as a self-sovereign being, understanding that when I was born, Mother, Father, God places a crown in our etheric field, and that crown must only, we have to crown ourselves. Nobody on this earth has the authority to place the crown on your head. Like, it has to be a self-sovereign action. And so in that moment, I was like, oh my God, it's never going to happen. Like, Jesus isn't going to pop out of the fifth dimension. Like, it's now or never. I have to be the one to take my crown out of the etheric, because we're all sovereign, we're all Mother, Father, God's children, and I placed it on my head. And in that moment, when I placed my crown on my head, I realized I had to stop waiting, and it was now or never to just put down my story and offer it to the fire of transmutation. And I was like, you know what, that story has caused me so much pain and so much suffering, and it's me, I'm the one who's addicted to picking the scabs all the time. And I was like, it hasn't served me. And so I'm going to take this guidance and I'm just going to put it down. And so I offered it to the violet flame. I did some sort of ceremonial ritual thing to let it go. But it was my decision to never, ever pick it up again. And that is where we really, really actualize our sovereignty. And this is very much connected to the fact that we're all really, ideally, we want to be channels. We want to be empty channels. And if we think about, all instruments are empty. A guitar's hollow, a drum is hollow, a flute is hollow. So ultimately, like, that is our job, is to empty ourselves. And it's only when we're so addicted to identify identifying with our story, that it's very much like getting a guitar and stuffing it with cushions. And it's so that energy, that higher energy is unable to flow through. And so when we make that decision to put our story down and to never ever go there again, and just to let it go, that is when we become empty channels. And when we become empty channels, then the universe abhors a vacuum. And then what my direct experience was that the Christ energies, the God frequencies started then pouring through me. And that is my top tip to get to unity consciousness.
Wonderful. Laura, what advice would you give to a beginner, someone who's fairly new, or someone who is really concerned that they're giving their power away to be siphoned, and that this whole movement of creating an antidote for these 3 days is actually playing into the hands of the archons or the AI?
Well, it's a really important, and definitely want to hear what you how you would answer that too, because you've been, just everything you share is so important. So I'll make it kind of quick because I want to hear what you have to say and your thoughts about that. I absolutely agree with Jen. I mean, the thing is, what's so important is that we're aware first. So if somebody has that question, that's really good, because having pre-awareness means that you're that much more discerning and careful. Without having that, some people just kind of step into things and then they sort of realize after the fact, and they wonder why they might feel drained, or something doesn't feel right, or something didn't produce the results that they were hoping for. And of course, none of this is really necessarily going to happen overnight, but some people can have breakthroughs that on a personal level can literally happen overnight and in a moment. The most important thing is, if you do resonate with somebody, look at it not as, and this isn't, taking a different approach to what Jen said, because this is kind of what I get that she was meaning, is that you don't want somebody who wants to be put on a pedestal. They're not necessarily going to admit that that's maybe what they want. The thing is, a lot of leaders want people to energetically cord them, or want to cord their crown chakra and be that like middleman or woman, and be, the person that stands between that person's direct connect with spirit. So instead of having the direct connect with spirit, they're plugging into the teacher, they're plugging into an energy, they're plugging into the idea of a movement or something external or something to feed. So prayer is great, it feeds intention. And then, if we let it go, we can be the manifestors and the action behind the prayers, instead of kind of hoping that somebody saves the day. I mean, nothing wrong with prayer, but we also have to take action. So we don't want to see something as like outside of ourselves, or be vulnerable to any kind of energetic cording. So before we go in, we have to claim sovereignty. It might be good to do an invocation, because the way one person experiences something is different than the way another person might. So you can go to a concert and be watching a band. Somebody might be all drugged out and literally energetically corded into the band to the point where their identity morphs into all of that. And then you can have somebody who's very sovereign, very much in their own space, and very grounded, very centered, who's just going to enjoy the music, but is able to walk away and not almost be sucked in a parasitic way. And that's, part of the growth period that they're going to need to go through, because if they do it in that situation, they might do it in many situations. It could just be, that's where that person's at right now, is needing, to feel that connection, right? So if somebody's at that stage, you definitely want somebody who's safe, because we have seen, leaders in this field who have not done enough of their own shadow work, who are not in the highest of integrity, that are saying a lot of things, but their lifestyle is not showing that they're actually walking the talk. And that's okay, because they're on their journey, but they shouldn't be in those positions to, it's like, if you're going to be in this work, you have to be meticulous about your own energetic space and being in integrity, so that if somebody does want to sort of merge with you energetically, that they're safe. So that's kind of what Jen is saying. So I think the invocations beforehand are really important. Hold a strong intention that this is about us holding space for each other to have direct connect with spirit, to have our own personal sovereign experience with our own creative power and our intention, and that we get to share that in a group and amplify that in a group, but we don't lose our boundaries in doing that. And having boundaries doesn't mean blocks. It doesn't mean that they're barricades, but it means that, there's a healthy, ability to know when to say yes and when to say no. Because ultimately right now, We need to learn to listen to our intuition more. We need to get our own direct downloads, and we need to, move to this next level. And so I feel like good teachers and leaders, which you guys are helping to hold space for people to do that. You're not trying to replace it for them. You're not asking them to pour it into you and make you the savior. You don't want to be raised in that way. You're literally here to help activate people, and that's my intention too. So I think it depends on the person. Are they ready for that? Are they ready for that direct connect? Are they ready for what might come up? And if not, and they do need to kind of merge into the group mind, that they take a pause first and really feel into it. People need to give themselves a lot more, respect. Some people are desperate. So it's sort of like, dating somebody and having chemistry, and next thing you get married to them, but you don't even know if you're really that compatible. There's a certain desperation that can happen as to why people do it. So just take a deep breath. None of us are alone, but to have that direct connect is everything right now. The old paradigm model is putting it all on somebody else. A guru, waiting for a savior, waiting for an ET race. And so we're learning to mature and recognize that all that we're seeking is within ourselves. And we need to hold hands and have that mutual love and respect. So I would just say, if you're a newbie, already know, like, it's all in there, and just protect yourself, and invoke your own direct connection, but also, just say something like, I only want what is in the highest good for me and the community to result in this. I invoke that my energetic field is protected from any interference or any AI. Write a little mantra beforehand, and just know that this is what we're learning about our throat chakra. It is so powerful, and that's why we see, and when we lived in mystical, more advanced civilizations, it was the things we evoked with our voice. We could command things. Animals, would come and interact and do things with us and for us, and vice versa. So we need to command the things that that will protect and ensure that the things that we might be concerned about will not happen. So that's why, the energetic protection is so important, beforehand. And if a person's oblivious to the fact that, like, sometimes it is dangerous to just enter a group mind, this is also a warning to have discernment. So I feel good about saying, yeah, I feel safe. If I were to recommend people, it'd be like you guys, right? So anybody who's like new in this, it's like, well, that'd be my testimonial. But know that you are stepping up to your own spiritual mastery. You are learning self-mastery. You are learning to be on the level of something that you might be sort of thinking isn't possible, that you don't have it in you. Just remember that this is about your awakening, and the unity part of it is that we get to share together in sovereignty. And the one world order, the group mind, doesn't appreciate diversity. We have to recognize diversity in harmony is oneness. So shine your light, be your true authentic self, and don't fear the panic or the red flags. Embrace all the things that come up for you. There's no one way to have to be or to strive for. The best thing that you can be is true to yourself, and that is going to get you to the goal a lot quicker than, I just need to fit in, or I'm going to give my power away, or I'm going to do what everybody tells me to do, and they're telling me to do this right now, and that you override something that might tell you, no, that's not a good idea.
I think what you've both said is just spot on, and I'm not really sure what I could add to that other than to say what I said earlier, to know that there are individuals who are able to hold focused intention and are able to move with the group and provide a containment field, or what the Nine call a hermetic seal, so that there is safety. I won't necessarily use the word protection, because to use the word protection suggests there's something you need to protect yourself from. And whilst that's true in the third and fourth dimensions, it isn't true in the fifth dimension. But what I would say to anyone who's beginning this is, everything you said about the intuition, and everything you said, Jen, let's say you want to take part, but you are afraid that you are actually giving your power away to some archonic force. There are spiritual teachers or starseeds out there telling people this right now. There always are. With every global meditation, you always have individuals telling you not to do it. So just say that you want to take part, but you're really not sure. For example, Jen mentioned she's using the symbol of the rose. So if you want to just do something very light and gentle that doesn't take you necessarily into the group mind, but that allows you to move into that initiation and receive the energy in a very safe space, stay on the periphery and perhaps plant a rose, upload a photograph of a rose to your social media. Draw a picture of a rose, put a picture of a rose on your desktop, and just hold the intention that you're staying on the periphery, that you don't want to move into this group mind, and because you're just not sure and you're just not ready. Even though there are assurances, you can't tell someone, oh, I'm a leader in the field, or I'm able to hold that power, I'm able to create that containment field. If they aren't able to understand what that means or resonate with that, then you have to show them. You can't just tell someone that. But what I would say to somebody who perhaps is thinking about moving into this 3-day collective and moving into one of the meditations but isn't sure, I would say go and watch my video, the 3 steps to Stargate Ascension in lockdown, and take note of step 2, which is the same as Laura's video, which you can find on her channel, which is Message to the Dark Controllers. What this is a declaration of sovereignty. So if you want to step into this collective mind and this collective movement and this beautiful initiation, understand step 2, make the declaration of sovereignty. You're bringing down your boundaries, and then step in and do the work, because the work, as in the meditation, the collective movement, the initiation, is step 3, and that is when you're opening your heart and moving beyond the battle, the war, the polarity, and moving into the love. What I would add to that is to say, this has already happened. Yes, we're looking at 3 days, the 20th, the 21st, and the 22nd. We're looking at the solstice eclipse energy. But the antidote to the dark plan has started the minute the dark plan started. The minute they came forward with the virus and the lockdown and all of the dark steps, the antidote was already being brought forward. The light already stepped up. So if you were someone who perhaps took part in, you know, the blackout squares, and I was putting out information about that, if you decided not to put up a blackout square and instead you put a rose gold flame or a trident or some other higher coded frequency symbol on your social media, you've already moved into that energetic of the antidote. We're just flowing into the next sort of phase of that sine wave. So that's what I would say to a complete beginner. Stay on the periphery, do something very simple. Like I said, Jen's using the symbol of the rose. Plant a rose, sit by your rose, upload a photo of your rose, and just stay in the periphery. Follow your intuition. If it really doesn't feel right to you, if you're listening to us talk and thinking, no, I don't want to take part in this at all, then don't. You're still a starseed, you're still awake, you're still on the side of the light. We're collectively together, regardless of what we do or how we do it. The other thing I'd like to address is I've had people say to me they don't like us using the words teacher or leader. It sounds egotistical. They don't want to hear us say, I'm a spiritual teacher, I'm a spiritual leader. What I would say to that is, this isn't said in ego, and I completely agree with the person saying this. I don't like using the word leader or teacher or guru. I only use these words to explain what we are doing, because ultimately this isn't about leaders or teachers or gurus. We are all one. We are forever a teacher and forever a student. So we're no more a teacher than you are listening to us. It's simply a word, and it isn't meant to elevate us above anyone else. So you can both comment on that if you would like.
I'd love to say something about that, Magenta. And yeah, like, as I think as we transition from 3D to 5D, there, you know, it's like there are going to be some of us that are a little bit more advanced on the evolutionary process. That's not coming from an egotistical way. I see ascension as like the 3rd dimensional aspect is the caterpillar, and the 5th dimensional aspect is the butterfly. And so there's just are some people that are a little bit further on in the chrysalis. And so I feel it's appropriate, as we are transitioning to this anchored and stabilized fifth dimensional culture and society, there are going to be some of us that are able to pass on our tips, like, oh yeah, we've done that because we've gone through that little part of that evolutionary process, and we use the tools of presence, we use the tool of gratitude, we use the tools of service to others, and so we can just pass on those tips to assist in the acceleration of their evolutionary process. And of course, it is absolutely, when you're in fifth dimensional consciousness, you're in absolute unity consciousness, and you are of the understanding that we are all Christed beings, like we are all children of God, and God doesn't have any favorites. Like, there's no one, you're not special just because you're a little bit slightly more advanced on the evolutionary path. Mother, Father God doesn't have special people or favorites. It's just that we signed up for that role, but as we are transitioning to this fifth dimensional society, of course this label of leader is just going to drop away. Organically, it's going to drop away, because we're all going to be accessing our own sovereignty codes, and we're all going to be reaching that place where we're governed from our own consciousness. Because when you reach fifth dimensional consciousness, all you want to do is serve. The last thing you want to do is harm. It's it is absolute antithesis to every part of who you are, is to harm. We just want to be kind, we want to be loving, and we want to be in service. And when we get there as a collective, it will be completely redundant, the idea of leaders. But we have to understand that as we're in this transitionary period, it's a really, really efficient way to work with this evolutionary process. And people that know us know that, Jesus, look at the amount of stick that we get. It's absolutely unbelievable. We do this because it's locked into our DNA, is to serve our brothers and sisters, and we can't have any days off. We can't even have an hour off. I can't even really have an hour off. I'm sure you guys can't even have an hour off. It's like we are in service mission 24/7, because that is how we've been programmed. And eventually we're all going to get to that place, and this whole notion of spiritual teacher, I used to absolutely hate the word teacher, and I was like, that's an illusion, because we're all God. Like, I've happened to have awoken to my divinity, and I remember the God codes of that I carry, but in my awakening I know that you're exactly the same. Like, I'm not special. I see you. I'm a Christ consciousness person, so I see the flame of Christ burning bright in you, and all I see is a master. But you haven't quite got there yet. You haven't quite remembered that. So I really deeply rejected the whole kind of spiritual teacher notion. I thought that was the height of illusion. But I understand that sometimes, that language, it is, it's okay, we can use it. But I'm not that cool with it. I see myself as an activator, and I see myself as an awakener. That's much more than a teacher, because I just think you can't really teach God. All we can do is remind. Like, my job is to remind you of what you are holding in your subconscious mind that you may have forgotten. I can't teach you. I can just be a mirror and to remind you. So I think it's really, really beautiful to talk about that. And I also think it's very, very important that we realize that one person reaching fifth dimensional unity consciousness on a micro level is incredibly powerful for the collective. And that is how we align with this 5D timeline. The more of us that can actually reach this place of unity consciousness, we need to have a critical mass of souls that have reached that plateau of consciousness in order to anchor this timeline. So never ever for 1 second think that you are not playing a very highly significant role in this ascension, because every single one of us are playing a ridiculously important role. And so make it your focus to awaken, to completely and utterly awaken out of the matrix, and to stabilize in unity consciousness.
Well, that's
Beautiful.
really, really well responded to, Jen, and I agree with everything that you said. And I thought it was good to just mention that, because I had quite a few people talk about those words, and I have rarely used the word spiritual teacher to describe myself. I rarely use the word spiritual leader. I don't think I've ever used guru ever.
I've never.
They're simply words. They are not meant in the old energy 3D way that one would see a teacher or a leader. They're words to just explain, as you've so well put, with the whole sort of butterfly caterpillar. Now, I don't want to wear you ladies out. I do have another.
Real quick though about the teacher thing.
Yes, please. I just wanted to know, are you happy to keep going? I have a question.
Like, I've got 5-10 minutes.
Okay, great. Comment on the.
I just wanted to speak up. Ooh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, comment on the leader teacher.
Yeah, and I'll try and make it quick. Yeah, I mean, I just absolutely agree with both of you. I don't put that in a title. I don't say that. Other people have called me that, so I'm like, okay. But to me, it's like, looking at people's chart, everybody has a place where they're a leader or a teacher. For some, it might be behind the scenes. It might be in the 12th house. For some, it might be something in their community, something that revolves around how they run their household, the role that they slip into to play a leader role, you know, is going to be different for everybody. And it's basically, you know, what we do have agreements on doing. We are reminders. We are activators. We've had experiences that have helped us to see a side of reality that can help to liberate people. And that's the intention, is that you're going to be able to see through, you know, the lies and deceptions, because we're all born with amnesia. We all have stuff. So a lot of it is helping a person to remember themselves, to, like you said, Jen. So when I was doing wilderness expedition courses, you know, one thing I really noticed about the leaders, where they were the ones that went through the storms, they faced the poisonous creatures, they went through hell and back, and that's what makes them really good at what they do. Because when those things hit somebody who's not experienced, that person who has that experience can say, well, this is what you can do in these times to protect your, you know, to keep yourself from drowning, from, you know, this is how you need to be prepared if you do get bitten by, you know, I guess what I'm trying to say is, it's really coming from, it's like I was recruited to go off planet. So that was the first thing that got me into the public eye. So I was able to tell people about an experience, but am I teaching them? No, I'm being me. So being a teacher and a leader is being an example. It's being authentic, being true to yourself. So we've been willing to share stories. We've been willing to share information and downloads and this and that. People can take it or leave it. Nobody, I mean, I think we all have this in common. I never saw myself as a teacher or leader. I just decided to set myself free and give myself the chance to open myself up to being me in the world, and in the hopes that other people would feel more permission to be themselves in the world. Not to, you know, be like, I've got all the answers and come and follow me, but it's like, I'm willing to be transparent. I'm willing, you know, to share this stuff. And maybe it's going to teach you something about yourself, and something, you know, that wants to open up in you to maybe do something similar, but in your own way, not necessarily, you know. And some people are like, I could never do what you do, but I do this behind the scenes, and I'll see that they hold such a leadership role for the planet. It's just, they don't want to be seen, and they're just as effective. So it really depends on the person. So I just think being a leader and teacher in the new paradigm is being an example of it, being an authentic soul who is got the humility to constantly do, you know, whatever inner work is necessary, and to want to bring out the best in people and want to help people, you know, come together for the highest good of the collective. And some people, you know, are going to step into that when the time is right for them. Some people might always just want to, you know, join in, but I never consider me having followers. I consider allies, friends, companions. I just don't put myself above anybody in that way. In actual fact, I'm very, very humbled, and I get so much, I see, you know, incredible intelligence, and I learn so much from people that it goes both ways. So the people that I feel I'm relating to, they teach me just as much. I mean, it's just, to me, it's a mutual thing. I think what, you know, puts us in a little bit more of a high profile position is because we're willing, and we know that there's something that just drives us to do this.
Yeah.
But it's just as important of a role as anybody else, and anybody who can get the activation knows that we just want people to step into their highest potential, their greatest sense of self-love, their greatest sense of, you know, purpose, and it's not all going to look the same. And as long as one's being authentic, they're where they need to be. That's number one. so that we're not just in subpersonalities that have been engineered. That is the most dangerous thing. And so we have experience in knowing what that looks like. And some of these experiences are dark and traumatic and not easy, and it's not easy to bring out publicly. But yes, so I just have to say that those, you know, labels we don't really resonate with. Some of them have been placed upon us, and but I think we all are in agreement that we're just representing, you know, our heart, our soul, our truth, and call it what you will. But it's in a it's not hierarchy at all. There's no hierarchy here. It's like we're all just, you know, a part of this unified field, and we have diverse expressions, and we're all here to help each other, you know, get home. And home is within, you know, to amplify that within ourselves. You know, and it's amazing. So I know, I think if people get to know us enough, though, they know we're not ego driven in that way. And
yeah,
ego, you know, it's important to feel confident. It's important to be empowered, but not separate from soul, spirit, and acknowledgement of the uniqueness and beauty and the fact that we're different, but we're equals. I mean, in the eyes of God, absolutely, and Goddess.
Thank you, Laura. So I think we're all in agreement that we don't necessarily resonate with those words. We don't necessarily feel they're the best words to describe us. However, they get used to describe us by other people, and they're words to explain what we do, but they're not necessarily the best words. So I'm in agreement with the person who posted that comment, or people. So I actually have two questions here. One was sent to me. The other one is regarding the message that came through from the 9 in the middle of the night that I scribbled on this piece of paper. So if you've only got 10 minutes, Laura, just answer whichever one you want. So the question that was sent in is, do we need to reach critical mass over the next 3 days? I took all the questions to do with the solstice and eclipse. Over the next 3 days, do we need to reach a critical mass of light workers and starseeds as we hold that consciousness, that antidote to this dark attack that's coming in? Do we need to reach a critical mass? And is that critical mass 144,000 people? And once we have 144,000 people, are we home and dry? So that's one question. The other is, the 9 came forward in the middle of the night and said to me very clearly, as I was again waking up, and I'm actually hearing these words clairaudiently, you know, as if there's someone next to me in the bed talking to me in my ear. Watch the celebrities as they follow their calls and out themselves. Picked up the piece of paper, wrote that down, and then I had to think about what this meant. I spoke to the 9 a little bit more. What they were saying is that there are many celebrities that are caught in the cabal structure and are following their agenda because they have been, because they have to, they are caught, and so they're not able to sort of get out of that. But so too are there starseeds and light workers within the celebrity culture that are all receiving the call to step up with the collective consciousness and the unification like we all are. So I think what the 9 were meaning when they said watch the celebrities as they follow their calls, as in the cabal have told them that they must do this, or the higher energetics are coming into them and they have that call that all the starseeds and light workers have, and out themselves. So does this mean, and this is what I think the 9 are meaning, that they are going to show us which ones are caught in the cabal structure, which ones are happy to be there, which ones are desperately trying to get out and are calling to us for their help to get out, and those that are starseeds are letting us know that they're not part of that cabal structure and they are starseeds and always have been. So it's kind of the 9 was saying that the celebrities are going to start showing us something about what's going on around this time period. So there you go, 2 questions. Take your pick if you want to answer either one or both of them.
I keep trying to do short and sweet answers, and it's just one of those kind of things. So I'll be real short. I don't know if you want to go first, Jen, but I'll just take one of them and not. I think that it's inevitable that it's going to have to happen that way. That we'll find out who have been blackmailed, who are struggling with getting out, that there's those on the inside that, recognize this dilemma. I mean, there's been blackmail, people have been drugged, people have been compromised, people are, being made to follow. Some are completely, the ringleaders behind it are very, very happy to participate in that way. And there's a huge difference between somebody who's been manipulatively recruited in and somebody who is gladly participating, and they want those rewards, and they're willing to do anything to get the rewards of wealth, fame, and power and beauty or whatever. So I think all of that's going to have to come out on the table, and the next wave of energy is going to, be pushing people to that edge, because too much is at stake. And so I feel like the soul essence that so many of us are holding strong to, are holding that opportunity, especially when it's not done in duality, and that there's forgiveness and love, and that people like us will help a transformation and a disconnect from those dark, forces that have preyed upon so many. And then that'll separate the wheat from the chaff, and then we'll, be able to see the ones that are like, doing everything they can to avoid that level of disclosure and keep it going. And as far as critical mass, I mean, that number, of course, is an incredibly powerful number. I already feel like those numbers have already awoken on the planet, and that it doesn't take huge numbers to create like a much greater wave, but it doesn't mean that the dark part of these agendas are just going to magically go poof. So we're going to see a percentage of the population that's still attached to it. But I think the dominant wave of energy, as far as timelines go, is that it's going to begin to shrink even more, even though it might feel like, there's mandates to wear masks in these states, and almost those rules are getting worse. That level of suppression is going to create a volcanic response eventually. You can't put a lid on a volcano. And right now the throat chakra for people is just like, they're not going to be able to take it much longer. So it's almost like pulling a rubber band back. You're trying to limit it and control it, but the minute it lets go, it flies that much further forward. So I think all that stuff that we're still seeing, is going to become the breakthrough that will reach critical mass, because we're going to see things in the news this weekend too. We're going to still notice things, and I think enough buttons will be pushed for this eclipse time to represent humanity's massive breakthrough of a great awakening, and not further suppression and enslavement. I do feel like critical mass has already been won, and like you said, it's already happened in these higher dimensions. We've already experienced it. We already embody the victory. We have to bring it down though, and not let, it's really what's getting siphoned and what's getting distracted away from what already is that we have to watch out for.
Thank you. Jen, anything to say on those subjects?
Yeah, I would say that I definitely resonate with everything that you said, Laura. And I 100% feel that we've reached the critical mass of 144,000. So I feel that we've done that, and I feel that we really, really are doing very, very well on this ascension timeline, and we are in accordance with the highest possible sort of like outcome of all the timelines. We're on the highest one. That's what I feel intuitively. I feel also that with this whole kind of like celebrity thing, that a lot of them that have been quite vocal on Twitter doing like really, really mad sort of posts and stuff like that, I believe when I tune in that they have been they're under white hat control, and it's that kind of like drip, drip, drip for the masses, because if the masses were to find out really, really the atrocities that they have been involved in, that's going to cause maybe even like psychosis for some people. So I think there's like a drip, drip, drip of where they're under white hat control, and they're revealing themselves, but they're not coming out in the open and saying that. And so it's a bit like, oh, are they cabal controlled? Are they white hat controlled? And it's a bit confusing. But when I really, really tune in, I feel like there's no way on God's great earth they would be that blatant. Like even like this whole Bill Gates thing, the fact that all of their acts are like 666, like they're not hiding it. And I think that this is the white hat's way of waking up humanity by them going to the furthest extreme of the atrocities, and it's just being exposed, so that people are going, hold on a minute, no, there's something not right here, because so much, and I think a lot of us have received this, that you know, that this whole 5D timeline is intricately connected to the amount of people that are awake on the planet. And you can't just sort of go in there and just like tell everyone, oh, this is what they did. We have to show them. We have to show them who they are. And so it's a little bit of a slow process, and it can be quite frustrating for us that are really awake. Like, come on, enough already. Like, we just want them, like, this reveal to happen. But somehow I feel that yeah, a lot of these celebrities are under white hat control. I don't think all of them are, but I think that the very, very key players, I don't know if I should name names, but I do think like Gaga, Bill Gates, all the people associated with The Who, I really, really feel that they are just working to awaken the masses, for them to be exposed so that they see themselves.
It was interesting that the Nine spoke to me about this, because they've never, ever mentioned celebrities to me ever before in the middle of the night. Watch the celebrities. So I'm feeling the fact that they've drawn attention to it, it must be fairly significant for this coming time, that maybe something is going to happen with those that we consider to be celebrities. And I was assuming they were meaning people in film and movies and music and that sort of thing. Regarding the 144, it's my understanding from the Nine that this isn't necessarily an amount of people, which so many people think it is. It's actually a code. It's a DNA code. So when you have the 12-strand configuration within the DNA, you have the full configuration, the natural organic configuration. When that goes quantum, so you have quantum filaments, as in all the different timelines and realities, then that takes you into a 144 configuration. So the 144 is the code for the DNA activation, and that is always part of the light codes that come in during a solstice and during an eclipse. So that's why I wanted to bring up that question. So no, it's not about having, now it may well be that 144,000 is the cutoff critical mass point. I haven't been told that. And I agree, Laura, and with you, Jen, that, you know, it's a smaller number. You can go to this override frequency with a very small number of individuals, because it is about the light that they radiate and the DNA configuration that they hold and the focused intention that they're able to work with, rather than the amount of individuals. So is there anything either of you would like to say before we close?
I'd like to just share my dream. I had two dreams last night,
and
one of them was of, sorry, yeah, and I'd love to play a song. But my one dream was that Donald Trump was in my house last night, and he came into my living room and he said, there are a lot of things that we need to discuss, but the most important thing that we need to discuss right now is the quantum financial system. So I just wanted to put that out there. It seemed very significant that he came all the way to my house to tell me about the quantum financial system. So I take that as a really, really good sign that we're on this ascension timeline, and that we're aligning with the Jasara timeline and the Jasara codes, which is obviously connected to the collapsing of this old 3D currency model, and we're going to go into this high dimensional currency model. So that was quite a good sign for me that we're on track. If we're just talking about that, like if he was like, that's the most important thing, that feels like it's connected to the solstice gateway, and the work we're going to be doing in terms of anchoring, like, because this is going to be the real shift for humanity. One of the most significant shifts is when Jasara lands, and we move into the quantum financial system, and we also move into the quantum internet, which I've also been receiving information about, that this internet is going to be like considered like so archaic. Like when we have access to the quantum internet, we're going to be like, oh my God, how did we do it? So my team sort of showed me that a lot of our platforms, they are going to collapse, but we are going to be creating very, very high dimensional platforms in the new quantum internet. So I think that's quite exciting. Did any of you want to say anything about that?
I'm in agreement. Magenta?
Agreement. I've received information about the whole sort of quantum technology and quantum internet. You mentioned you'd like to close with a song. Before I'd just like to say thank you to both of you for getting together today and to, you know, have this chat about the solstice energies and help me respond to these questions. And yeah, it's been fantastic connection.
Oh, I know. Thank you both so much. And I guess, yeah, before you go, Jen, and I'm going to turn my camera off and just listen to the song as I shift into the next part of my day. And I can't wait to hear it. Yeah, I guess I want to thank everybody. I'll keep my website updated. It's cosmicgaia.org. I hope we, you know, just keep doing these. They're really important. And that's the thing. It's like our words create reality. So the more we talk about the reality we want to see, and being consistently vocal about it, I mean, it's painting that picture. I mean, we're putting strokes on a canvas every time we say something. So with so much division and so much stuff going on, to be in this place where the reality that we're pulling out is of a, you know, better world that's already encoded in all of us. I just recommend people do, you know, have these kind of inspiring conversations. Don't make it about a battle because of differences of opinion. Really just you know, embrace the beauty, put your hands on the earth, connect with the earth, because the earth and the cosmos hold all the codes that we need in the greater intelligence and the planetary grids and just the consciousness of the planetary body holds all of this. And it helps us to connect to our own soul and our DNA, which are elemental. The nucleic acids in our DNA are elemental. And so the ether is available to create a huge alchemy. And so, yeah, just really, you know, embrace, you know, the earth, because she is a consciousness being that is taking us there, of course, with total balance and oneness with the Father energy, and the ability to, you know, constantly birth the template of the Christ Sophia, whatever anybody wants to call it, that balance, that template that holds the true architecture that we need to reclaim in our DNA, which is a living tree of life. So thanks, everybody.
Laura.
Love you guys. Okay, I'm going to shut off my camera and listen to you, Jenna.
Okay, Laura, I'll see you again soon.
Okay, awesome.
Okay.
Love you, Laura. Oh,
I love you, Jen. I love you, Magenta.
yeah.
Bye.
Oh, I'm listening. I'm just turning my camera off. Okay, go.
Still there. Yeah.
I am here and I understand. I am held in God's hands. All is love. I let go. I surrender to the flow. I am free. God is with me. I am a child of the universe, and I am immersed here and now in all that is love. Yes, I am a child of the universe, and I am immersed here now in all that is love. I am here and I understand. I am held in God's hands. All is love. I let go. I surrender to the flow. I am free. God is with me. I am a child of the universe, and I am immersed here now in all that is love. Yes, I am a child of the universe, and I am immersed here now in all that is love. Yes, I am a child of the universe, and I am immersed here now in all that is love. I am here and I understand. I am held in God's hands. All is love. I let go. I surrender to the flow. I am free. God is with me. For I am a child of the universe, and I am immersed here now in all that is love. Yes, I am a child of the universe, and I am immersed here now in all that is love.
Goodness, Jen, that was so lovely. I've actually got tears in my eyes.
Oh, that's for all our listeners, Magenta.
Do you know something? When you said you were going to play a song, I thought you were going to play a song. I didn't realize you were going to sing and play the guitar. That's so lovely. That's just so lovely. That was just such lovely, beautiful energy.
Hey,
lovely.
oh, it's so beautiful. Yes. Wow. I'm deeply touched. I was just rearranging things, and I can carry on with my day. And this whole day, this is my morning. For you guys, it's the evening.
Yeah.
You know. So it's like what a start to an incredible rest of my day. I've got a bunch of interviews for the rest of the day, but we'll listen to it again and again. Thank you, Jen. Okay, bye.
Bye, Laura. Thank you so much, Jen. Thank you to everyone who's listened to us today. And that was just beautiful. That's just such a lovely energy to finish on. And thank you so
because
much.
that is the essence of who we are. And it's like, you know, we need to touch that vibration of divinity and sacredness within ourselves, and music just bypasses the subconscious or the conscious mind, and it goes straight to the subconscious, and it's a transmission, it's a direct transmission. And so just want to leave all of us with that blessing, and my prayer is that we all remember how beloved we are. And it makes me cry invariably, but because my eyes opened and I was so blessed to see God, and I had like a near-death experience without dying, and I saw the enormity of God's grace, and I just wish and pray for everyone to know that, and to just trust us. You are so loved, you are so divine, you are so precious, and you are so beloved. But this third dimensional matrix is never ever going to tell you that or reflect that back to you. So trust the teachers that you connect with, trust the souls that you know that you're guided to, that give you that kind of like somatic response or the goosebumps, whatever it is. That is your soul's way of confirming that the truth. And just, I love you all so much. To all our listeners, I'm so grateful to have this role, and I never ever take it for granted. And I love you so much, Magenta Pixie. You really are my true soul sister.
Thank you, Jen. Love you too, and love everyone who's listening as well. So I will stop recording now, say goodbye, and we can just stay on and have a
Bye, beloveds. Love you all. I'll post the links to all my whatevers.
Okay. Bye.